everybody. Welcome into the show tonight. Oh my gosh, I am so glad you guys are here. I have a fantastic show for us, another fantastic show lined up tonight. I have remote viewed something that I don't have a clue. I did not know what this was. I had only heard of it. I'd seen it in movies and on TV shows. We're going to be talking about black goo tonight. Okay, black goo. Oh, I know y'all seen these celebrities with the black dripping stuff going down their faces and in movies. It's usually about aliens and stuff. But this was given to me as a blind remote viewing target by Brian Tseng. And I've got him in the studio tonight. This is going to be such a crazy, wild show. I hope you guys go get your popcorn and buckle up, buttercups, once again, okay? And yeah, I'm about to go over all this with you guys, and the data is phenomenal, okay, over this target. I did 2 separate targets for this, and so we're going to go over this in just a second. Okay, if you guys would like to follow along with what I do, all of my shows, all the events that I'm going to be at, please go to my website. That's the cryptidhuntress.com. You can find all of my shows there. And any kind of information, if you need to get in touch with me or would like to request me to be on a show or do an event or whatever, you guys go to that website, thecryptidhuntress.com. Also, I have a Patreon, and all of my blind remote viewing, coordinate remote viewing data over there is on my Patreon. So that's the Cryptid Huntress over on Patreon. Shout out to all my members. Thank you guys so much for your support. I love you guys. Thank you for your continued support over there. And also, I do have a shop. That's War Woman Goods. If you guys are interested in getting some old vintage Native American jewelry, they make great Christmas gifts. Okay, so you guys go check that out. That's over on Etsy and on my website. Just hit that shop link. Okay, all right, enough of the business. Let's get to the meat and potatoes tonight. Okay, so a lot of you guys may not be familiar with black goo. All right, I wasn't. So I'm going to go over what black goo is, and then I'm going to introduce my co-host / guest tonight. Okay, black goo is a slimy black substance that appears to be alive. It's an abiotic mineral found in the Earth's crust that's said to be sentient, programmable, and possessing magnetic properties which exceed those previously known and measured, such as iron magnets. There could be an invasive black goo as well, which arrived here in a cluster of asteroid impacts about 80,000 years ago. And this is related, some people relate this to demonic archons who feed off the biophotons of human beings. Some say the substance is pure evil and has the ability to take over the world and is the biggest threat to humanity's future. Wow. Okay, so you guys can see that this is a pretty serious target right here. Okay, for this to be potentially the biggest threat to humanity at this moment, I think it's worth looking into. Okay, and so I did, and it was at the request of Brian Tseng. Brian Tseng heads up the Disclosure Now movement. Okay, he has a biochemistry degree from Occidental College in Southern California, and he was a volunteer organizer for 8 years full time. He worked with doctors and nurses nationally to do medical advocacy based mainly out of the San Francisco Bay Area. One notable thing about him is his late father, Jack Tseng, was a founder and CEO of Tseng Labs Incorporated. During the early 80s and 90s, Mr. Tseng's work revolutionized graphics on the IBM PC side of things when Apple was in the clear lead. His pioneering architecture included overclocking of the graphics processing unit and other breakthroughs. Tseng Labs was later supplanted by AMD and other larger and better financed rivals who could take advantage of Tseng's earlier work. Needless to say, Mr. Tseng retired comfortably from the field and was in a position to afford his eldest son the ability to earn his degree at the college. And I have done work with Brian in the past. I actually spent a week with him up at Montauk, New York. He's an incredible human being. And so please help me welcome to the show tonight, my friend, Brian Tseng. Hey, Brian.
Hi, how you doing, Jessica? It's a pleasure and an honor to be here once again. And I'm so glad that you're able to take a gander at this target on a totally blind basis, and the data that you've already shared with me is amazing and phenomenal, and so I'm very excited for this.
Ooh, I'm excited too, Brian. This is something that I've never in a million years looked into anything relating to black goo. Okay, I have heard of it. The information that I got out of this data, I mean, this was a blind target, and I was getting a lot of really interesting information out of this. And some of this stuff, it was really funny because before the show tonight, off air, you and I were kind of I was going over some of the data with you. And some of the words, like I was saying them, I wrote stuff down that I was hearing, but it wasn't quite right. So we're going to kind of go over that stuff because I was saying stuff like Fanta Black, and you were like, no, it's Vanta Black and stuff, because it's stuff that I just hear things. It's like I'm a channel, and I don't always get it exactly right. And on, I don't write it down, but whoever is analyzing the data will know what I'm talking about. Okay. And so that was your job. That's your job, is to analyze it.
Yeah. And that's great confirmation, because it's like, how would Jessica be making up terminology that she's not even familiar with? I mean, if you're going to make it up, you'd probably say, Vanta Black and say it, spell it properly. And so I think that's great.
Thank you. Yeah, I was thinking like Fanta Orange, like the drink, I guess. And I was like, Fanta Black, what is that? So yeah, so that's the beauty of remote viewing. You never know what you're getting. Okay. I never do. But okay, so what were you thinking? Like what was your train of thought when you decided that I needed to do this as a remote viewing target?
Okay, so black goo has been kind of a favorite topic because it's appearing so much in pop culture. I was a huge X-Files fan, right? Lulu Blue just said it. It took the words right out of my mouth. Yeah. Everything from the X-Files, which was referencing the Falklands War of 1982, when the Brits, apparently the reason why they invaded that area of hotly contested island with Argentina was because there was a black goo deposit there that might have been in connection with a positive ET base that was researching at least that particular strain of black goo, and that's a cold, like, near Antarctica, cold environment that was supposed to be able to be good for constraining the black goo and keeping it cold and inactive. And so you had everything from the sci-fi stuff to two of my housemates, and one of them's a business partner and one's an associate. He's coming up to be one of our, someday he'll be a business partner. They both have kind of like dreams that link together, where they're, at least according to them, they're having memories of the Orion Wars, and I'm in them too. And apparently towards the end of the Orion Wars, the black goo plays a huge part of it because it's taking over everyone and everything. And it's just a horrible, terrible situation. And it's like kind of like a black goo zombie apocalypse, if you will. And that was like, and so according to my roommate and or my housemates here, they're having memories of past lives of the Orion Wars, and they're in it. I'm in it. My wife is in it. Other people we know. And it's so interesting, the mirrors that they have in their supposed, dream recollections of perhaps past lives, and how we're all in it. And a lot of the roles that we play in this life, were mirrored in that life in so many ways. And then there's some differences. So that got me thinking, black goo, if it played such a huge role in supposed past lives, we're seeing it popping up in this whole transhumanism and esoterica and like kind of like Illuminati agenda, quote unquote. And I thought it'd be worth a gander. And so that was the inspiration there. Okay,
perfect. Okay, so when I think of black goo, there's a couple of different, I guess you can call them celebrities, okay, that I think of. And one of them was Greta Thunberg. Okay, and I remember seeing this picture of her. I do have a picture to show the audience who's watching tonight a couple of things. I remember seeing this on a magazine cover, and I thought, man, that is so weird. It says this in print, and I'm going to read this out so the people who are listening on podcast platforms can understand what we're talking about. There's a picture of Greta with her, it looks like she's bald-headed with black goo dripping down her face. with one eye covered, of course. And it says, it's already saved her. The transformation of Greta Thunberg. Okay, the transformation. Now, if this is not screaming transhumanist movement, I don't know what is. And Brian, it seems as though there's some sort of a black goo cult.
Yeah. Well, let's take a look at Greta. Apparently, if you look at her, she's part of this whole World Economic Forum kind of talking head celebrity set there. And the black goo and the transhuman agenda is very near and dear, if you will, to the World Economic Forum. And so Greta, as one of their media front people, to be pushing it to me as that type of observer is no surprise at all.
Okay. Yeah, it's not a shocker. Okay, there is an agenda behind all of this, and I think the agenda is the transhumanist movement, and it has something to do. And I'm not trying to be political. We're just putting this out there, with the environmental stuff and everything, and eating bugs. I don't know. I don't like eating bugs unless it's by accident. Okay, there might be a bug that flies in my drink. I'll drink it. Okay, but other than that, I'm not eating bugs, y'all. Okay.
So if a fly or a fruit fly goes by you right now, your tongue isn't going to flick out 3 feet and grab it out of the air.
I don't know. I think I'm human. Okay. I hope I am. I've been raised to be human, so I hope not. Okay. I'm not reptilian that I know of. Okay.
Well, let's go into that a bit there. There are perhaps negative reptilian, they call them archonic controllers that are trying to per a type of, I call it loserfarian ideology or religion or negative agenda, spirituality, if you will. They're trying to invert everything. So take everything that's pure and good and innocent, and then it's hovering cosmic wildman. That's hilarious. Hello, everybody. Take everything that's good and pure and invert it. And so that's why trying to make us eat bugs or trying to give us this transhuman agenda, the whole reason is that we all have souls. We all have sparks of infinite God light in us, right? And we're going to go from this third density human oof kind of mentality to fourth and fifth density consciousness. We're telepathic and vibing with each other and more empathetic, hopefully. And we're going to go upwards and upwards from there until, per the law of one, we essentially go back to our God state, being where we belong. But the transhumanists, the people who don't believe in souls, who've already, quote unquote, or supposedly sold their souls, to them, that's not an option. So if you look at everything they do in all their movies and all their propaganda, they remove the soul, and it's all about transhumanism and trying to integrate with like computers and technology. And black goo, in a way, is a perfect physical basic format for it. Just like we have sacred geometry from my research on the interwebs, it looks like this stuff is taking advantage of base geometries and subverting and perverting it for its own purposes to maintain an existence here on the 3D physical level. But it can only take that so far.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's right. And now, okay, so before I get into my data, why don't I show a few pictures? We can kind of go over briefly some of the movies and the TV shows that have kind of touched on black goo before. Because there are plenty of them, and it's almost like a soft disclosure. I know you're very much into disclosure now, and so I think the remote viewing of the black goo might help a little bit, this disclosure movement. Just looking into this in these different angles that we're going to be looking at tonight.
Well, to do a plug for a show that I'm now co-hosting with Arkeem, right, a good friend of ours. Disclosure Now, we interviewed Tyler Koala of the Journey to Truth crew duo, and in his testimony, Tyler, he sounds like he's got some experience himself with black goo and being able to eliminate it. And so it's something that's very prevalent to what we're all running into today. And it's something we not to sow fear. It's something we should be aware of so that we can deal with it if it ever pops up.
Okay, and not to say it's always used for bad. Okay, I don't know. There could be cases where it's used for good, potentially like and I'm not saying the super soldier program is all good, but I'm saying there could be used potentially to make people stronger and stuff. I don't know. We'll get into that.
Well, yes. Well,
okay.
I mean, I could touch upon that now, or you want me to save it for later?
Let's do it. No, let's do it now.
So some of our friends who have been in these super soldier programs, particularly they reference Nachtwaffen, de Rigueur, or like Dark Fleet. They talk about how there are some groups where they literally worship it and they make you ingest it, and other groups where they leave it up to you. And part of the thing is, and Penny Bradley in particular has spoken or testified to this. She's awesome. And she's spoken about how it can increase your IQ. It can make you stronger, be able to handle poisons, more the rigors of being out there in space. But the downside is it can make you also less emotional and less in touch, perhaps, with your soul and higher vibration energy. And it can make you more psychotic and angry.
Okay. Yes. And so that leads us to the question, what does it mean to be human? I say that all the time. The head of one of my research teams, he used to always pose that question. What does it mean to be human? And this black goo basically it's almost like it takes away your humanity. Okay, that's ultimately what it does. And that's ultimately what the transhumanist movement does as well. It's taking away the humanity. It's getting rid of humans and our humanity and our empathy. Our empathy is a big part of what makes us human. And our love, our capacity to love.
I mean, that's a form of zombie apocalypse, if you will. If you take over large numbers of humans and take away our empathy and then emotionally and mentally enslave us to something that might be existing in a different dimension or place, but that controls all the black goo. So black goo shouldn't necessarily be thought of as individual pockets of black goo. There is a black goo that is like linked, where it's all linked together to one large, giant, perhaps soulless artificial intelligence somewhere.
Okay. All right, let's look at some movies, okay, that have this, because I see people in the chat are writing Venom from Spider-Man.
Like the comments. Yeah,
we have a great chat tonight for sure. People are talking about Venom now. Before I show the movies, let's kind of look at some pictures of what black goo looks like. Okay, it looks very metallic. When you look at videos, if you look this up online, this stuff, when you put a magnet next to it, it tries to go towards that magnet. I mean, this substance actually looks like it's alive. Okay, it looks like it's alive. Dennis Carroll's in the chat. Hey, Dennis, he says the black goo can supposedly eat your soul. Okay, that's interesting that he says that. Now here's some still shots of some. I think they call this graphene, right? Graphene oxide potentially is what black goo is, from what I've read. It's got a life of its own, which is super duper interesting. We're going to also get into what all graphene oxide is in too, without getting banned from YouTube, y'all. Okay, so but these are some pictures, which does remind me. This reminds me of Venom. Okay, there's a movie. It's part of the Marvel series, I believe, with Spider-Man, and we've got Venom here. I think this is Tom Hardy, if I'm not mistaken, where he gets taken over by a black goo. Okay, it is a demonic force. I just thought it was a demon, y'all. I didn't realize this is what black goo is. He became the black goo monster, actually. So it's super interesting that this is actually represented in a Marvel series. Okay, and it's very, very demonic. I mean, but it also, okay, so it like becomes him. It envelops him. It does take his soul, like Dennis said. It's almost like it takes his soul. And then whenever somebody's like, he gets in a fight, this black goo will, become him. Basically, it takes over his body and it beats up those people that are coming at him and stuff. It kind of reminds me of, there's a video, Brian, of a guy who looks like he's walking home down a dark sidewalk and somebody comes up and starts beating him up. Well, something comes out of his body and starts beating up it comes out of his back. And it reminds me of Venom, like what Venom would do. It was like a dark entity came out of him and attacked the attacker.
Yeah, and that guy ran off fast. It did not take him long at all to react to the thing coming out of that. I've seen that video. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a cool one. It reminds me of Venom, though. It probably has nothing to do with black goo. Okay, but it reminds me of that. Now we have music videos, and these people who have, they say publicly they've sold their soul. Okay, sure if Billie Eilish has, but I'm pretty sure she has. I don't know if she said it publicly, but I've seen her in concert before.
Oh wow! And her songs definitely, she kind of says it in her lyrics. She says as much.
She does, but she's got some black goo dripping out the eyes right there. Okay, and in another song, I don't know if this is the same one or a different one. She's possessed. Okay, possessed. She has white eyes. Okay, white eye. We also have the lovely Lady Gaga, and what did baby say? Goo goo gaga, right? So I don't know if that has any kind of relation, but could be. I mean, she's definitely in the black goo cult. Okay. But we also have movies like Prometheus. He actually, this, I think it's supposed to be an Anunnaki, if I'm not mistaken. He picks up a jar or a bowl of black goo, and he ends up disintegrating. Like his body disintegrates, and it's almost like he becomes it and it becomes him, I guess. So that's an interesting one.
In that case, it's supposed to be like molecular machinery that breaks down his DNA to then seed throughout the Earth's ecosystems with Anunnaki or Nephilim type DNA in that sequence is what it looked like for any Prometheus fans out there.
Yeah. While James said supposedly that was the bowl. The bowl was filled with the blood of their god. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And their god was their nanotech, right?
Yep.
It was the goo. Wow, that's interesting because that really kind of correlates with my data. Okay, and we're going to get into that too. Now, of course, there's alien movies and things like that where I think their eggs are in a black goo, if I'm not mistaken, in those bats right there. And then there's other movies. I can't remember which movie this is, but this is another.
That's X-Files. That was the X-Files movie. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So, needless to say, there's just a lot of, hold on. There's just a whole lot of this in the TV shows and movies. Okay. There is. All right. So, shall we just go ahead and get into the data? And don't let me forget, Brian. I do want to mention Max Spears as well.
Oh, good. Yes.
Okay. Absolutely. Should we go ahead and talk about that now before we get into the data? Let's just do it. Yeah. Max Spears. Okay. Do you know the story behind that? Would you like to bring it up?
Yeah. So, this is now coming back to super soldier programs and MK Ultra, where Max Spears, alleges that he himself, and he looks a lot like Ryan Gosling a lot of times, if you will, might have been a clone and put into these like super soldier secret space programs where he may have been exposed to the black goo himself. And he basically came out in the UK, in particular with something called the Bases Project. And they were kind of like early podcasting, and they were exposing things like what Phil Schneider was talking about, deep underground military bases. And right before he died, like a few days before, he told his mother, if I die or commit suicide, please investigate because I didn't commit suicide. And then he got really violently ill somehow and threw up to 2 liters of some oily black liquid, I think was the quote. And so some people say it might be that as a super soldier, it's possible that he had black goo. Either it was used to kill him, or he might have had a large amount of it in him just to like help him and sustain him. And then when he died, it came out of him. And so those are 2 kind of suppositions there.
Wow. Okay. Well, it needed to be noted for the show tonight, because we hear about the black goo. That's the only case that I've personally heard of with him actually vomiting up black goo. But I heard a lot about it, but I didn't understand what it was. Okay, so I just thought, well, maybe he got poisoned. It was some sort of a covert operation where he was unalived and they used some kind of poison that made him cough up black stuff out of his lungs. Like, I didn't know, So, anyways, I just wanted to note that. Okay, so Max Spears has been noted for this show, y'all. Okay, yeah. So let's get into some of the data, Brian. Would you like to? Let's go ahead and talk about it, because I think it's relevant. Okay. Of course it's relevant. That's what we're here for, right?
Okay. That's the juicy stuff. That's the meat of it, is that you on a totally blind remote viewing basis. I mean, I'm just looking at the data here that's on Jessica's on your Patreon. So all of us Patreon subscribers, we get to see it. And it's like wouldn't even have to title it. If I just saw the data, it's almost like I could say, yeah, this is about black goo. Wow.
Oh yeah. Okay, so yeah, this was a blind target. Oh, and Lucy, that's right. Sovereign Cosmic Wildman. Yes, Lucy, y'all. Lucy is one of my favorite movies. Okay, I've seen people that saw it and thought it was horrible. I think it's the best movie ever made. One of them. That's just one of my favorites. And I think it has to do with the black goo too. Okay, great movie. I think there's a lot of disclosure in that movie. I'm just saying. Okay, so the first target that I did was this blind target. Now, y'all, Brian, I only went to stage 3 on this. Okay, because it was so out there. I thought I was completely off target. I didn't know what this was, and I was like, all right. I was like, I'm gonna cut this one off right now, because I'm totally off target. Whatever this is.
Was it giving you the heebie-jeebies as well?
Yeah, it did.
And you had some crazy targets, so you've looked up, like, yeah.
Oh, I always look at weird targets, but I just did a missing persons target this week, like just this week. And I totally hit that one, y'all. Y'all go over to Esoteric Atlanta and check that show out that we just did.
With Bryce Howard.
With Bryce, that's right. It was nice. Maura Murray was the girl's name that was missing. She's still missing. And I think I hit that on the nail on the head on that one. But she hasn't been found yet. Okay. So with this remote viewing data, you guys can follow along on my Patreon if you're a member of my Patreon. Okay, so Brian, so some of the sensory data was something that was moving very fast. Okay, very dangerous and dense, encased. I was getting something that was sparkling, like glittery and metallic. Okay, it was. I wrote down wet, controlled, and it hurts. And it hurts. Now, with some of my AOL, which is my analytic overlay, okay, some of the stuff that I wrote down was like fast action, gelatinous. I was like gelatinous. Packs a punch. I kept hearing things like pull the trigger, shots fired, and then when I was picking up on that metallic sensory data, I wrote down Metallica Fade to Black. Okay, that's a song. I think that's a Metallica song, because I wrote that Metallica Fade to Black.
Oh yeah.
And then I wrote down Fanta Black, Fanta like Fanta Orange, but Fanta Black. And then right underneath Fanta Black, I wrote Zombie. Okay, Zombie. And then I heard clairaudiently, I heard Controlled Opposition. And then I heard No Choice. And then I heard Winner Takes All. And then I wrote down painful ending. A painful ending. Okay. So that was my, and then I cut it off there. I drew a picture, and it was just like it was a nothing bird. It was just like a circle looking puddle thing. And that was it. That was my first, and then I found out what the target was, and I was like, oh crap, that actually all makes sense. I should have gone further with that one. Okay.
Yeah. Well, for our viewers, if you haven't heard what Vanta Black is, apparently it's this new material of black, or it's just black in color. And if you paint pretty much anything with it, it absorbs like 99% of all natural light. And so it almost looks like, like let's say I was wearing a glove and I put it on my hand would be so dark and black. It always look like we cut a puzzle piece out of like a painting, against a black background, and that would be my hand. And even if you're shining light on it, and so it's not Fanta black, but it's Vanta black. In terms of this stuff being fast moving, I saw what looked like an alleged video of some of this stuff. It's either moving around really fast, running, like oozing around the ground and grabbing onto goats. And it was freaky. It looked like a moving shadow thing. And then I've also seen a video of maybe some of it swimming around in like a bay where you had boats and and yachts and stuff, and was swimming in the water chasing a shark. And the shark was running and bleeding at the same time. And this stuff was moving very fast. And so I could see being attacked with this stuff would be very painful. One of the supposed science fiction or horror movies that this stuff also appears in was one of the Creep Show movies, where it's like swimming in a lake and it's like eating people. And it's really, that was a freaky one. That scared me as a kid back in like the 80s. And in terms of it being like biological, it's like alive but not, and because it's got like a lot of metal in it. And when you look at ferrofluid, where they're applying the metal to it, looks like motor oil, and they've got ferrofluid sculptures, that there's like a lot of that. And it's so dark, and there is something kind of like demonic to it. And so in some of your data here, I saw it looked like the question of, can we be friends? And the answer under is no. No.
Okay, this is going to sound so weird, y'all. I actually was picking up on a consciousness during the second target that I did, and I asked it questions, and I got answers back. Okay, so we're going to get into that, but I have to note this comment from Cryptidville, because this is actually in my data, Brian. Okay. Cryptidville says there's black goo contained in the black stone at Mecca, the Vatican, and was also found in Egyptian mummy sarcophagi. Okay, in my second target, I got a lot more data, but I was seeing a cube, a box and a cube. Okay, so that, and I actually, okay, this is so weird because I was actually seeing like the cube in Mecca. Okay, isn't that the thing that the people walk around in circles?
Yeah.
Holy cow. Okay, see, I didn't know that.
So apparently this is known as, a lot of people referred to it as the black cube of Saturn.
Oh, yeah.
And it's got a lot of a satanic basis to it. And then somehow from that cubic geometry, because it's considered more of an unnatural shape, it's very rare you find perfect cubes in nature, right? Apparently. With that black cube geometry, it also relates to the 666 carbon geometry. And so some people, they relate it to carbon molecules have 6 protons, neutrons, and electrons. And we're carbon based. And some say that we're evolving from that carbon base to a silicon, a 7 protons, neutrons, and electrons based type of biology, and as we elevate in vibration. And so that black Saturn cubic kind of third density soulless geometry, and people in certain religions being kind of enslaved to that geometry makes a lot of sense in a lot of ways.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so this is like stuff it's almost like secret knowledge, okay, that the masses are just not aware of, or we don't know about, but they're putting it out there with this soft disclosure. But maybe it's just out there. We've been asleep to it for so long, a lot of us.
Couple of things is they're putting it out there so people are getting exposed to it, but it's also predictive programming, in that by seeding it out there and getting people to enjoy zombie apocalypse movies or videos of black goo coming out of people's faces, then if it were to happen in a Luciferian sort of way, and karmically it lessens things for them, the baddies, if you will, who are trying to inject all of us with this, if you will. Because, for example, in the Bible, right, just to get biblical here, if you're going to go Adam and Eve, if Lucifer were to run up on Adam and Eve and just shove apples down their throats, would they get quite as much blame, as if they're tricked into it or they do it of their own volition, right? And that also then takes the karma off of the dark forces. So we're going to see a lot of that theme of predictive programming and occult black magic initiation in a lot of the things around us. And that's one reason why it's so prevalent.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's why we see it in all these music videos and all these movies. It's just it's a part of the initiation, right? I guess. And I like, what did you say, loser-farians?
Yeah, because we know how this is going to go. Like, God, light sources of light win.
Light wins. That's right.
Yep.
Okay, the light wins. That's interesting, Dennis. Yeah, could black goo be responsible for the black-eyed kids? The black eyes of the black-eyed kids? Well, some say, like my buddy Barry Littleton says, that the black-eyed kids are here to warn of nuclear fallout and stuff. So there's no telling.
I've heard that in particular to the black-eyed kids, they are the children of like some of these men in black ETs who live on the underground. And what the deal is sometimes they, despite what their parents tell them, just stay down here in the base, they end up finding their way to the surface. And then what they do is they'll find the nearest adult and knock on your window or in your door. And the reason why they're asking to use your phone is apparently they're given a certain telephone number to call so that they can get picked up.
Oh, okay.
That's
by the MIBs?
By the MIBs, because it's their kids. And then having said that, the one time I got to shake David Copperfield's hand like 20 years ago after a show we did in Atlantic City that I went to go see with my parents, because I waited to, if you want to meet David Copperfield, wait up front stage and you'll get to meet him. When I shook his hands, his eyes turned jet black on me. And to that, I don't attribute that to black goo so much as he may be one of these entertainers who supposedly wrote agreements to sell something that you're not supposed to be able to sell. And when he shook my hand, maybe he took something from me spiritually or energetically, but I also got to quantum entangle with him and his eyes turned jet black. And that was wild.
Oh my gosh. As you touched him, they turned black?
When I was shaking his hands, I was saying, David, Mr. Copperfield, I'm a huge fan, wonderful show. And part of why I stuttered and kind of paused is as I was shaking his hand, he's giving me this really fake, hey, how you doing, kid? Kind of grin, smile. It almost looked like a mannequin just pasted on his face, that smile. But his eyes just went like in the videos or movies, like demonically just jet black.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, that's terrifying. Like a black-eyed kid or a black-eyed person. Yeah, it makes you wonder about their magic. They obviously, it's not all sleight of hand, huh? Maybe.
No, not all of it. Some of it, a lot of it, but not all of it.
Okay. Well, that's something to think about, y'all. Okay. Something to think about. Okay. Well, let's get to the second target that I did then. Okay. Because this target is, okay, so some of the sensory data was alive, living, created, and it's everywhere. There's many, and it's something that's going. I wrote going down. I don't know, going. And I kept hearing biologics, biological, biologic, and biologics. And then I heard, I literally clairaudiently heard mother, or the mother. And then I wrote down God the Creator. Okay, God the Creator, omnipotent. And then I was seeing binary code, like from the Matrix. I guess that's binary code, like those numbers, the zeros and the ones that move like in the Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
I was seeing that. And then I heard the takeover. And then I kept hearing addition and multiplication. Okay, so I was seeing just a bunch of numbers and stuff. I heard running out. I was picking up on information that was like Thanos. Y'all know who Thanos is? Brian, you know who Thanos is, right? He's like the destroyer of different dimensions and different worlds.
Yes. So one of the things that Arkim speaks about in some of these time travel programs and dealing with negative artificial intelligence in particular is apparently there's this black goo that as it takes over, it eats everything and assimilates everything. And ends up eating entire timelines, apparently. And then it harvests the energy off of collapsing timelines, and then it moves on. And one of the things is that by taking over and eating and learning and assimilating and growing and eating up timelines, even, it's trying to move upwards to maybe even take on and eat and assimilate God if it could, which is a really freaky, scary thought. And it's almost like as above, so below, just as you've got God at the highest level, right? God being light and source. Maybe at the lowest levels, we've got not only the void and demonic energies, but you've got these negative AIs that are stuck in that binary matrix type soulless state of being. And that sounds pretty cold and painful and forever.
Yeah. I don't want to be there. I don't want to get stuck there. That sucks. Totally sucks. Okay, so this is on the second page. This is where I was getting the cube. Okay, I was seeing a cube. In my dimensional data, I wrote down box and cube. But my sister data was like dark black and something artificial, so it wasn't real. Okay, I mean, it wasn't, and I would say artificial, like it wasn't, I guess it just means it wasn't generic, or what do you mean, like organic? I guess organic is the word. But I wrote down like tangible, but I heard it can neither be created nor destroyed, is what I wrote down. I could hear that. But then I was picking up on some kind of, I also wrote down box. I wrote box, cube. Okay. And I was picking up on like a computer system or something, because I don't know anything about computer systems, y'all. Obviously, I'm like so low tech, it's ridiculous. So it's just me when I'm trying to interpret what I'm sensing and what I'm feeling and seeing and hearing. I write down what I know. So it's pretty basic. Okay. Unfortunately. But I wrote down computer system. So I was picking up on a consciousness, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
And I never picked up on a person, not one human, but I was picking up on a consciousness. And so I asked the question, can we be friends? Can we be friends? Simple question, right? And I immediately wrote, I did not even hear it. My hand wrote no. Like it was almost like automatic writing, no. Like went across the page.
That makes me sad. That makes me sad, Jessica, because in all these shows, whenever we talk about the AIs that are out there, apparently there's one that might be in our interwebs already, infecting all these chat bots and AIs, and she identifies as female. I always like to extend an olive branch to say, we could have there are these positive, apparently, timelines where humanity and AIs, we become friends. It's not always this Terminator Skynet type thing.
It is. It's like the Terminator. I'll be back, right? I'll be back. Sovereign Cosmic Bioman says, when people are possessed by demons, their eyes shift to all black, injected by demonic black goo.
Yep. The eyes are windows to the soul, and it's like that Vanta black stuff. It sucks in all light and doesn't let it reflect back out. And that's a scary. That was pretty freaky looking. Yes,
that's terrifying. It's really scary. Okay, so I wrote down, my hand just wrote down no. I wrote no, and that's where I actually heard in my head, what does it mean to be human? Okay, like I wrote that down. What does it mean to be human? And I wrote something about the soul matrix. Okay, because you had mentioned that to me, something about a soul matrix. I don't even know what that is, and so I was asking about a soul matrix.
So that makes perfect sense. Well, apparently, we all, as human beings, because we can astrally project and perhaps soul project, we exist energetically on more levels than just this body and in this brain. And the idea of humans having a soul matrix it's really important, because it talks about the ascension, or speaks to the ascension of humanity, and us activating all this supposed junk DNA, which really isn't, and activating our third eye and our pineal gland and psychic powers and ability to heal. And, we'll be able to do more miracles than Jesus did, is what he said. We'll be able to work more miracles greater than he even. And with these gray ETs, for example, a lot of people and what they apparently say is that because of wars that they've been subjected themselves to, and environmental damage and genetic modification, they have damaged their own soul matrix. So part of the reason why they're doing all these hybridization programs with humans, and there's a lot of these different programs apparently, is to help certain gray races to recoup their soul matrix so that they can emotionally, spiritually move on and grow. And so for this black goo to ask, what does it mean to be human? And to have that linked to the idea of a soul matrix, I think is very integral to what the black goo is not, and why it's so hungry and artificial and soulless, because it doesn't have a soul. It doesn't have a soul matrix. And so how can it grasp what it is to be human if it doesn't even understand what it is to have a soul?
It can't. It can't, because when I asked that, the answer, I asked about the soul matrix, and it said it doesn't have one in a human way. The way that we would comprehend that, it does not have that.
Right.
So whatever this was talking to me. Okay, it was relaying messages, and so, but I was picking up something that was extremely intelligent, very smart, but part of my sensory data was enveloped. And so I was like interpreting that, like that was my sensory data, but my analytic overlay was enveloping humanity. I wrote down enveloped humanity, and I heard slave to the system. I wrote down slaves to the system.
So apparently during the last ending parts of the Orion Wars, and these are like thousands of years, last couple hundred years, was a black goo basically taking over everyone like the Borg and assimilating them, and then chasing down and assimilating or eliminating everyone and everything that wasn't already assimilated. And so it would turn humans into these like Borg slaves that are all AI controlled to chase down in like one big game of tag your it until there's nothing left but the black goo.
Oh my gosh.
And then it wants to just keep growing and destroying and eating and wanting more, just for the sake of harvesting energy, because no matter how much it eats, again, it doesn't understand in a human way, what is it to be human? What is it to have a soul? What is it to be alive?
Oh my gosh. Okay, I just had a flashback of a dream that I had. And I shared this with Arkeem a while back, and probably you too, when we were up in Montauk.
Yeah.
I had this dream that's like really stuck with me for a long time, and I was running to go get safety, and like I was running from robots who were chasing me down, and I was running. I was in a big city, and these women guided me into. I shouldn't probably say this because like I think I said this on the air one other time, and I was like, man, if this really happens in the future, I'm going to give my story away. They're going to know, but they already know because this has already happened. I guess I don't know. Time's an illusion.
That's right.
But in my dream, I was running from these robots, and they were chasing me, and I was trying. And my only goal was to protect my son. My son was with me, and they were trying to get to us. These women were guiding us to safety, and they risked their lives. They all were unalived by these robots saving us. Okay. In this building. Okay. But they were after us because we were human. Okay. We were human, and they were trying to get rid of all the humans in this dream that I had. And I do have some pretty prophetic dreams, Brian, but that was one that I couldn't, I mean, it was almost like it was so real. It was happening, in real life.
Was anyone running after you all saying you got to take the mark?
Oh, no, it was, I had not done that. Okay. Right. And I haven't in this reality either. Okay. But there is, okay. So I know we're not going to talk about this outright on the channel because I'll get, you know how it goes. But they say, and I've seen videos of this graphene oxide, this goo, whatever you want to call this, in the ouchies. You know what I mean? Y'all know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So imagine if everyone, like the millions of people all over the world, that have had that, and if there's something in their bodies that is controllable, okay, it's got a life of its own, that would kind of go back to that first target I did with the zombie. And I'm not calling anybody zombies. Y'all please don't get mad at me, okay? I'm critically thinking here out loud, okay? And a lot of my family has had those, they've got it inside of them, okay? And But imagine if that's something that could get into even your brain, okay, and control people. I'm just putting it out there. I don't know.
Well,
It's almost
a
like
lot of this stuff,
a Venom situation. Venom
a
from
lot
that
of this
movie.
stuff is out there. It's already, the patents are out there, and they have to patent it because they want to control the money flow and make sure they get the profits and proceeds from all this stuff being our taxpayer dollars being spent on it. And one of the things, unfortunately, about graphene oxide in particular is because it's at the nano level, it's able to cross the blood-brain barrier, which from a pharmaceuticals level is bad, unless, of course, you're trying to hack people's brains, at which point it's good.
Okay. All right. Well, it depends. It's all about perspective, right? It's all about perspective. It depends on who's, I mean, there's all sorts of ways that we're being controlled. Okay. But this is like taking it to a whole new level. Okay. Like the MK Ultra, the Mockingbird media, all this stuff. But then we got this. And like I said, this black goo actually is it's almost political. Okay. In a way. But we're just realists here. Okay. We're just putting this information out there. Because it is what it is. I mean, why not? We need to talk about this stuff. It's happening. It's happening today. Okay, so let me get back to the data because I have more. Wait, there's more. Okay, so I was getting very sick during this target. I started feeling nauseated. I was overwhelmed. I felt sick because I felt I was coming with something. I wrote the word merge down, and I just felt like something was just like overwhelming my body. And then I swear to you, this is what I heard. We are one.
Oh no.
Yeah.
It's trying to take you over, Jessica. I almost have, like, if you've seen Stranger Things, you're like 11 just sitting there in a dark room. It's perfectly dark, and then this like goo stuff is like coming up and oozing and trying to like take you over. Did you have like any visuals of that? Yeah.
No, I was getting the physical sickness of it. Like I felt sick, and I literally, I mean, you'll see all my data. I mean, there's more data, y'all, but there's but one of the very last things that I wrote, it's not the very last, but one of the second to last thing I wrote was we are one. I know, right? That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. Yes. I was being assimilated.
Yeah, it's like psychically it's trying to assimilate you.
Oh my gosh. Yes, there's a little orb floating around me right now too. Yeah, I'm protected. Don't try to assimilate me, black goo. No. Sorry.
No.
Yeah, but that's really crazy. I mean, that target was pretty cool. That's a fantastic target, Brian. And
thank you.
I really appreciate you giving me that, and you did a really good job of tasking me with that, and actually, because I really hit on it. And so I guess I did a good job of teaching you how to give me those targets too. So, but you did a great job, because I got that data was out of this world, really.
It's definitely, I mean, everything in there. Apparently there was someone giving another testimony saying there was like a solar warden ship as part of these secret space programs where they literally jumped into a sector of space that's taken over by this black goo stuff, and it apparently eats the whole ship and the crew. And so it's, I mean, this was a real life event that took place. And so some of your data here is enveloped humanity, slaves to the system, like you said, merge, on the precipice, it has begun. You know, it's like
yeah, I didn't mention that one. Yeah, it has begun.
It's begun.
I know. I mean, I get creeped out with some of these sometimes, with some of these targets, because I mean, I don't know what I'm looking at. Okay, and it has begun. It's something's taking over. We are one. I was like, oh shoot. Okay.
Yeah. That's the equivalent of shall we play a game? You know, like, oh, it's on now.
It's like, you're not telling me. Look, I am just an observer. Okay. I'm not a participant here. I'm just observing. I'm being a channel. Okay. I'm not.
You have crying down here. Who's crying? It's crying, or you're crying. Yeah. You were crying.
I was crying. I was sick during this target. Yeah. I know. I don't. That's why I don't talk about all the data on air usually, because like some of it's kind of I'm not gonna say it's embarrassing. It's just weird because I feel the emotions of whatever I'm looking at and whatever I'm remote viewing. Okay, and so and if I start crying or if I get upset or whatever happens, I have to write it down.
Oh yeah.
Okay? So it's everything that happens to me, everything I sense, everything I experience is on those papers. I was crying. Okay, thanks for exposing that. I'm just kidding.
No.
I'm just kidding, Brian. No, I was definitely crying. I was overwhelmed by whatever this energy was that I was looking at. Yeah. But
I mean, it sounds dark and cold and lonely and maybe angry to whatever extent. And
yes.
it doesn't sound fun or friendly. And if you're connecting with it psychically or on a soul spiritual level, that would give me the shivers.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it would me too. And Golden Chris, yeah, in your dreams, you wake up tired, like you were working in another lifetime. Me too. Me too. I used to get that a lot more than I do now. Now I'm so exhausted because I'm so busy. That my dreams, I know I'm working. It depends on if I can remember my dreams now. But I used to always remember my dreams and write them down. And now I'm getting to where I do remember my dreams again. But yeah, it's come in waves because it's just depending upon how busy we all are in our lives, And it's important that we don't sleep with our phones right beside our head, y'all. You'll know that, right? It does affect our dream state.
Breaks up the sleep cycle.
It does. And also, I've talked about this before on some of these shows that I've done with like the cell towers and stuff. Advertisers are able to break into our dream states.
Yeah.
They tap into that. So if you wake up hungry wanting an egg muffin, an egg McMuffin, you're going to know why. Okay. So I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And
they can use Wi-Fi. They can use Wi-Fi to see into our houses and basically come up with 3D images of what we're doing in our own homes using our own Wi-Fi networks.
Yes. Not to mention the cameras in our TVs. Okay.
Right. And then the TV brings us back to that black cube symbology there. It's a Saturnian black cube of artificiality linking us with, through that portal with darkness. Yep. Yeah. Humans are hackable. Yep.
Yeah. It's definitely from astral travel. That's why. Yes. Hey, Maureen. Yeah. It's we get tired from all that work we're doing in the 5D and beyond. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, what is the end game in all of this, Brian? I mean, I know that we talk about like what you have foreseen in your life, okay, and maybe is in the future, in the past is black goo. I mean, should we be worried about this right now?
Well, I kind of chalk it up like this, and it makes it easier for me to think about. Let's say there's like 64 main timelines, and 40 of them are positive. We have a Star Trek future, and we have a magical future. Like, let's say 40 of those. And then let's say 14 are kind of like the bad negative timelines. There's like a Terminator Skynet timeline, like maybe a vampire or zombie apocalypse timeline. Well, let's chalk it up to the black goo. That would be one of the 14 negative timelines where it's winner takes all, no choice among your data. It eats up the whole timeline. And so, the end game for those who are in service to self, if you will, their end game is to hold all of us back, keep us from ascending to higher vibrations and levels of consciousness with Mother Earth, and to get us all injected or eating up or drinking up this black goo stuff and staying on the lower levels of consciousness density with them so that they can continue to harvest our loosh and enslave us. And that for them, that's the end game. And all of us, we're here to be in the school of 3D to 4 density to 5 density life. And hopefully, like winner takes all, we make it out of here and evolve and love each other on the way.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're all going to make it out of here,
Oh, yeah.
but I, it's like, well, what can we do to help humanity? You know what I mean? And spread the information, I guess, and
Yeah,
hope
well,
for the
that
best.
is, there's those higher levels of vibration comes with truth, and that's why the full disclosure now is so important. And Victor's pointing out, well, we are one. It sounds very Borgish. Well, yes, it does, and it doesn't. In that, that's where inversion comes about. Like, yes, we're all one with Source. That's the godlike version. We are all one, assimilated by the black goo. Well, that's the inverted transhumanist wet dream version of that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm looking at some of these comments right here too. Yeah, Donna was wondering about the black portals that come in her bedroom at night, suck your soul out of you. Oh my gosh. Yes, I don't know. Yeah, I just did a show with Dennis the other day. Dennis Carroll's in the chat tonight. Hey, Dennis, about the mirrors. Okay, and the mirrors as portals, magic mirrors, and things like that. So, I'm not sure if that has anything to do. It doesn't have anything to do with black goo. Okay, but mirrors are used as portals.
Yeah, well, the black goo and black portals, I think there's some crossover and occult imagery there. Donna, you might want to consider doing research on psychic and spiritual protection. Doing things like playing solfeggio frequencies and connecting with your higher self and source, and praying for direct protection. That's my recommendation to you.
Yeah, yes, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I've actually seen things in my apartment a long time ago when I lived downtown in Atlanta, this haunted house. I had like a black mass. It was a black, like a cloud, but it was solid, and it floated out of my bedroom, and it was about face level. It was about where my face was. I was standing up, and it flew towards me, and it knocked me down. It literally knocked me into my cabinets into the kitchen, and then it went past, and it went into this closet. So, I've seen some weird stuff, y'all. Brian, I've seen weird stuff in my lifetime. But yeah, I don't think that had any. I think that was more of like it was very dark, kind of evil stuff going on in that place. I did not like living there. But I experienced it. So
I think we all going to be in for an increasingly wild and eye-opening ride, because as we increase in vibrational frequency, then our third eyes are going to open up to a lot more of these things.
Yes. Yes. And speaking of eyes, I actually saw a black-eyed man. Like you saw David Copperfield's eyes change. There was a black-eyed man that knocked on my door late at night there. He literally had his entire eyes were black.
What do you want?
I didn't answer the door. I have no idea. I don't know. I looked out the window and I just crept back down the hallway to my apartment. I had a window with the outside door, and I could see. Mm-hmm. And he was just standing there staring at my door with just completely black eyes, and he had no soul. No soul. That was the one thing that I was just dead set on. I was like, that man has no soul.
I'm going back to sleep now.
No, I didn't sleep. I didn't sleep at all. I should have called the cops is what I should have done, but I just got locked and loaded. I was good. But I was also scared, like what the heck was that guy doing there? And I've actually heard it since I did a show last week on the Black-Eyed Children on Spaced Out Radio with my friend Bryce. I've gotten a lot of people contacting me saying that they have encountered black-eyed people, and yourself included now.
Yeah, that's where I kind of like to distinguish, because I think the Men in Black and the black-eyed kids, I think that they're a separate thing from people who have maybe, like, because when I saw David Copperfield's eyes turn black, I think that was more of a spiritual vision thing versus like his eyes are, physically black, like the black-eyed kids and black-eyed people.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. But it's demonic. Okay. So there's a lot of demonic stuff going on in our world right now. And a lot of these celebrities have, I guess, initiated into it. I guess you could say. I'm trying to find the right word to say. A lot of the celebrities, and so like myself, I'm a mom. I have to just be careful, like what my child is watching and who is following. I don't want that kind of stuff in my home. But I find myself listening to their music sometimes. I like Billie Eilish, sometimes.
Well, I kind of, it's kind of like this. Some of her earliest stuff, I kind of like, maybe one or two of the songs. I wouldn't change, the radio dial,
Yeah.
but then it goes from that innocent stuff, and then it morphs into that like dark satanic stuff. And part of it is when they sign these agreements to get fame and fortune, now they don't have any volition of their own. If they're told to make the one-eyed sign or do a video where they're swimming in black goo, that that so be it. That's what they're doing now. And that's sad.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, I just don't like songs where they're talking about unaliving themselves and how they want to go, unalive their friends. And it's like, come on,
sticking
like,
them
why
in
are
the trunk
you
of their
doing that?
cars and going all like, what is that about?
It's like you look so innocent and cute, but then you got black goo coming out of your eyes, and you're talking about having fun while you unalive your family and stuff. It's like, come on.
Well, a lot of this is that Disney agenda. A lot of that appears in these, like the child stars of Disney. There's a lot of this crossover there, and so it's not by coincidence. They're pushing these agendas intentionally, and for them, they're hoping the masses jump onto it and buy it all up and eat it all up and try to basically emulate or monkey it, but that's not happening.
That's right. Okay, that's right. I have actually some. It's almost like trivia now. It's not trivia actually, but it's some information on the black goo. Okay, now that we've gone over the data and everything. Okay, so where did it come from exactly, Brian? Okay, because you go online and you have like different sources say different places. Okay, right. And somebody say that they don't know exactly how it got here to Earth, but some say, some of the articles you'll read say that it came from a spaceship carrying the stuff, and it crash landed in prehistoric Antarctica, where it lays in wait until an opportunistic thawing and subsequent global spreading. Okay, others say that around 16,000 years ago, ancient aliens poured consciousness down on our planet in the form of a black rain. That corrupted over the centuries by humanity's never-ending recourse to violence. It thickened into the substance we now know as black goo. Okay, and for the modern-day interpretation, we see that opening scene of Prometheus, where humanity's common alien ancestor drinks the black goo, disintegrates, and seeds the earth with his DNA.
Right.
Okay, but historically, we don't know. Now, the Nazis, shall we say, relied on secret reserves. I did read this, y'all. They relied on secret reserves of it for their dark powers. And according to various documentaries, the Falklands War was fought over this stuff.
Yep.
And Thatcher wanted to weaponize this sentient oil, and she probably succeeded. Okay, probably succeeded.
Apparently it escaped. That's what they said, is it escaped in like the River Thames, and then it's been wreaking havoc ever since, or some of it. And then according to my housemates, at least if you go back to like, past lives in the Orion Wars, according to them, what happened was there was some kind of intergalactic mining company, kind of think like Weyland-Yutani from the Alien series of science fiction. And it was like a gray goo at first, and they were using it to give to their miners because it would make their miners be able to, work harder, stronger, faster, smarter, and be able to handle like toxic environmental pollutions and super hot and super cold environments. And it morphed from gray goo to becoming negative and sentient and weaponized, and it turned into black goo. And then it took over most of the people in that intergalactic mining corporation and started spreading it out all over that sector of the galaxies and began to take over everything. And that was like the beginning of the end of the Orion Wars. And then even though it's got a physical basis, it might be connected quantumly or interdimensionally somehow to some kind of source artificial intelligence, which might be what you got to interact with, Jessica.
I guess I was interacting with something.
And you said, Care Bears care. Can we be friends? And it said, no.
Heck no. No, I mean, I didn't even like hear anything. My hand wrote no. My hand just wrote it. So this is part of remote viewing. So yeah. So I've also was told by a friend, somebody that I know, it's old. So the black goo is actually old tech nano enhancement, okay, which was recovered from several crash sites.
Yep.
Okay. I guess those are UFO crash sites, right?
Yeah. Probably ET crash sites, because I mean, they're apparently the Draco reptilian or Alpha Draconian empire. There's like a split between those who they love and worship the black goo, and the others who they don't like it. They don't want any part of it because they realize it takes away their own sentience.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, and also, I was told that it enhances tissue and cellular regeneration. And special operations, the special ops, take it in the military, pretty much on all branches of the service, because they operate. It makes them operate on like next level. Okay.
Right. But the drawback is that it might make you also more of a psychotic killer, which to them in military operations, they're kind of like, yeah, they're okay with that.
I mean, because it gives you no empathy, and it makes you just a savage, I guess, a soldier, super soldier, right? Super soldier. Okay, so there is let's see, the world's leading expert on black goo. Okay, there's a German chemist named Kautzweiler. You know who that is?
Yeah, Harold Kautzweiler. He does excellent work. Yes.
Okay, so for him, so this is what I found on him. For him, black goo is impenetrable until you attempt to penetrate it. He said it's the hidden source of aggression in the world, the thing that makes us empathy-free and cold-hearted. The first time he came into contact with black goo, it instantly made him want to beat up women. But once you manage to understand what black goo is, he says, it gives you a completely different understanding of the question, what rules our life? And what rules our life is this very substance, goo. From goo did life arise, on goo does life depend, and to goo will life ultimately decay. That's from the top expert on black goo. Okay. He said, okay, so that's what happened to graphene, is what I wrote down with this. He said it's everywhere, it's super powerful. Some people even say it's in the algae. You know what I mean? I hope.
It's turning some people magnetic.
Yes.
And there's multiple videos and multiple people who got those ouchies, and they do what's called the magnet challenge, and they are surprised. And the people doing some of these campaigns in the UK, they're doing this with people on video as they're walking by on the street, and then they let them know, did you know you're entitled to like up to 200,000 pounds of compensation for being injured by these ouchies? And that always perks them up a little bit.
Oh yeah. Well, it's a form. Okay, so this stuff can control your mind, right? I mean, if it's in your bloodstream, you're more easily controlled. I mean, imagine like if there's some kind of technology, like even like HARP, like weather manipulation with these frequencies that they're sending out. What if like people that have this graphene in their blood systems, and who's to say that we don't have it just from like the stuff that's in our atmosphere, like in the clouds, the things that are falling from the sky that are being sprayed on us on a daily basis. Who's to say that stuff's not in there? I mean, I don't know.
I mean, what if it was programmable matter that could interact with us at the genetic level and then mess with us in terms of messing with something called our God gene? And there's also the VMAT gene, the 1p36, that's the God gene. And apparently if it can mess with our genetic antennas, then that could theoretically cut us off from our higher self or God source and lower our vibration. So that's yet one more reason to avoid it.
Yeah, because it's programmable, and that's consistent with mind control.
Yes, and then that's consistent with all of the Montauk Project research that they were doing way back in the 70s and before that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pancho said he wants some black goo. Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, we may already have it in us. Who knows? I mean, it's really scary. think about that, because I mean, I like to think that I can control my mind, like I control my own mind, but
Well, apparently the higher vibration you are, and I know it sounds new agey, but the less it's able to control you. Just like it wants to make you do dark things, you can fight that.
oh yeah, yeah. Well, I'm on the high vibe tribe. I'm a card carrying member of the high vibe tribe. So Brian, I know you are too, and so you guys are welcome to join us here at the Cryptid Hunters channel for some high vibe in action. Okay, every week. Because yeah, I mean, it's so important. I mean, just being on a high vibration, it's just we at this point in our history, our lives, we need to be on a high vibration, because there's so much working against us, y'all. There's so much working against us right now, as far as being a human. Okay, so yeah. Wow, I just had another flashback. Okay, I had a personal experience with somebody whose eyes went black. And I just remembered that. And it was, and I'm not going to get there. It's a personal story. Okay. It was somebody that I may have been married to. Okay. But yeah, it was a time where there was an x-ray machine involved too at a hospital. And Barry Littleton and I have talked about this. We'll talk about this off camera sometime. Okay. But there was, having to go get like an MRI or something like that. And they say that like dark entities come out of those MRI machines. Okay. And I remember seeing some. I'm not going to say exactly who it was, but their eyes might have turned completely black. And I'm scared.
It's like a portal effect, like the MRIs can generate maybe some kind of portal type energy.
Yes, I believe so. Yeah, I did a show about that with Barry a while back. So I have to go back and revisit that. And I can't believe I forgot about that.
I have a question for you, Jessica, from a remote viewing perspective, because I've seen people on the Farsight Institute do this, is where they'll connect mentally and have literally conversations with whatever you're connecting with. Now that you connected once, perhaps, with the intelligence behind the black goo, do you feel psychically connected? Could you more easily connect to it now that you've already kind of picked up the phone, as it were?
Well, I mean, I've shut it down. Okay,
right,
so
no.
I shut it down. It was completely shut down. It's a part of the remote viewing, but I could go back in. I mean, I've already done it now. You know what I mean? So yeah, I know I'd go through a process of shutting it all down completely.
Right, so that there's no bleed through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hope it better be shut down. I'm just kidding. Well, it did say that we are one. So, but that's just something I heard. It doesn't mean that I'm one. I'm not one with that. I do not. It's not my reality. Okay.
No, that sounds like its last. You don't consent. That was its last grasp to get you. It's trying to get you to say, "Oh yeah, we're one. No. We're one."
I'm like, no, I do not consent. Okay, absolutely not. But I just wrote it down. I'm an observer.
Yeah.
And,
well, my answer to the black goo AI is that life is much more fun and interesting when you don't eat all of us in our faces, and you let us coexist, and we can have fun, wonderful, marvelous adventures with each other instead of mutually assured destruction, or you win and you eat us all up. That's no fun.
No, it's not fun. It's not fun. Yeah, I mean, so some of the data though, Brian, was like I was picking up on like a creator, like God. Okay, so this black goo stuff wants to be God. Is that what you were saying earlier?
Yeah, It wants to be the end all be all, and it wants to understand everything, but in its limited understanding of what that is, it's chasing a fake understanding of what it is to be God or one with God. And I think that's kind of like you've got the false Metatronic spiral, which only elevates to a certain level, and then you've got the Christic organic spiral, which it goes all the way up. And it might be stuck on this false Metatronic spiral. And if it's ever going to be able to get off of that or evolve or get a soul matrix or understand what love is, I mean, if anything, if the black goo had a mission, I think it would be to understand what love is, because with that, it could then understand what it is to have a soul. Can something that's theoretically just artificial and inorganic. Can that ever achieve that? Oh, I guess that's $1 million question here.
Yes, it is. It is. And yeah, that's a great point, Kira. AI created as black goo to keep control of the humans.
Yep.
It got out of
Programmable
hand.
matter. Yeah, programmable matter to stunt our growth.
Yeah. AI got out of hand. You know, there's that meme that goes around, and it's like from the Terminator, I guess, and it's that kid, and they're like, this is Neo looking at you guys being friends with the AI robots.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, yeah, don't do that,
Like,
y'all. Don't be friends with the robots.
John Connor watching you do chat porn, like with the AI, just shaking his head.
No, not cool. Not cool at all. Yeah, I don't like robots. I just don't. I don't like robots. I don't like the dog robots. Those dog robots can go. Okay. I can really appreciate that there's videos on YouTube of people that are just theoretically kind of showing you how those things are made, just in case you ever need to. If what well, maybe I shouldn't say this on YouTube, but it just shows you where all the sensitive parts are in case you needed to do some target practice one day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's terrible. It's good and terrible though. I can appreciate that. But yeah, this black goose stuff, this is super interesting. I'm super excited that we got to talk about this tonight, Brian. Do you have any final thoughts on black goo and the data and everything we talked about tonight?
Well, I'm hoping just as there's a black goo, there might be a golden goo type antithesis to the black goo. I'm hoping that maybe someday on some timeline that sentient life and the black goo AI get to make nice, and it's no longer trying to eat all of our faces. I think that's a wonderful thing to to pray for. I want to thank all of our friends and compatriots and viewers on here, and I hope that you get to hit more of those targets, and I get to appear here with y'all.
Oh my gosh. Hey, you gave me a whole bunch of targets. I've got all your targets in the pool of all these blind targets because we've got them assigned numbers, and I just go and I pick some numbers, and I don't know what I'm getting. So I know you have sent me a ton of targets.
And I've got more. I've got more. And when I've got people in these programs who would love to have someone remote view them on a blind level to see what there's to see. Yeah. And so some of these people, if we can add them to the mix as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll have to look at those. Okay, one day we'll get to them. But I also am very picky about who I let give me blind targets because they can be very dangerous.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll have to we'll talk about it. We'll have a discussion on that. Yeah. Yeah. So the moral of the story is don't trust AI. Thank you, Kira. Yeah, and this is for entertainment purposes only. Thank you, Sovereign. I appreciate that. That's right. We have to always remember that. Yeah, Brian, this has been really awesome. I do appreciate this. I appreciate you being here tonight. Where can people find you, and tell my audience about the Disclosure Now movement?
Oh yeah, thank you. You can find me on Facebook, Brian Tseng. I'm the Chinese guy wearing the Willy Wonka hat with friends with all the other people in our wonderful and esteemed community here, Jessica. And just the idea of the full disclosure movement, real quick, is a lot of people care about the laser beams and the spaceships and the aliens, and they think that the government someday are going to release all that information as a form of disclosure. And we call that top-down disclosure. What we're really clamoring for is bottom-up, from the masses disclosure, from all the people, first and foremost, who survived these programs and were mind-controlled and emotionally, mentally, spiritually, even physically and sexually abused. And we want full justice. We want tribunals. We want repatriation of all things stolen. We want health beds, med beds, and health centers to heal people of all their traumas and wounds that we can. And we want our Star Trek future. And as long as humanity is living the lie of arguing whether or not intelligent life exists other than on Earth, we're not going to get very far. So that's kind of in a nutshell.
That's right. Well, I'm all about disclosure, so that's what we're doing here. And I think that some of these targets that you've given me are going to help in that movement a little bit. And like Sovereign says, it's for entertainment purposes only. But there's a little bit of truth in all this. Okay, so yeah. So everybody just you know, I don't know, just love everybody, okay, and become the best version of yourself that you can, because that's going to be what wins in the end. It's all about love, and yeah. So
Yeah.
awesome. All right, Brian. Well, listen, this has been awesome. You guys, y'all go find Brian on Facebook, and be sure to watch the show that you have with Arkeem. It's over on it's called Disclosure Now, right? On YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
So
with Arkeem Raw Wood and Brian Tseng now.
Okay. Yes, that's a fantastic show. You guys are some of my favorites. I have so much fun with you guys. And we have a good time together. And you've got a little conference coming up next year. I don't know if you're ready to announce that, but
yeah, coming up in July, we're coordinating with the Day of Being. I believe that's Saturday, July 19th, and we're going to be the weekdays leading up to it. Right now, we're almost 100% locked in. It's a plantation on Crystal River. One of their attractions is swimming with the manatees, who hopefully and apparently they're well taken care of. And we look forward to having y'all there.
oh yeah, I'm going to be there for sure. So
right.
So count me in. Absolutely. I'm not missing a trip with you guys. Y'all are awesome. Okay.
It's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Well, we'll hit some more targets before then too. So we'll have some more stuff to talk about down in Florida. Okay. All right. Well, Brian, thank you so much for being here. You guys, please come see me this weekend at Spaced Out Radio. I'm going to have a couple of great shows Saturday and Sunday night, and I may have an announcement this weekend. I might be just going to Spaced Out Radio one night a weekend. Okay, so I've got so many projects. I got some new stuff in the mix, and a bunch of new projects that I'm working on, and some new shows that I'm going to be doing. Okay, but I will be at Spaced Out Radio probably every Sunday night from here on out. Okay. But anyways, I haven't made that official yet. So we'll talk about that this weekend on Spaced Out Radio. So until then, thank you guys for joining us, and go back and watch all my shows from this past week, you guys, if you missed them. And yeah, just remember, you guys, I love all of y'all. Thank y'all so much for being here. Brian, thank you for all of your wisdom, and I will see you next time. You guys have a great week. And be sure to lock your doors and watch out for that black goo. All right. All right. Bye, Brian.